Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Well, back to Brexit now, and a High Court judge has approved a scheme by Barclays to move 190 billion euros in assets to Ireland amid the Brexit no-deal uncertainty. The bank had argued that it could not wait any longer. Our economics correspondent, Helia Ebrahimi, is with me to explain.
Krish, I mean, this is important because it's showing a British company being forced to press the red button on its contingency no-deal plans. I mean, put quite frankly, time is running out. And Barclays, like other banks, had hoped that a deal would give them legal cover for their historical transactions. In a no-deal scenario, of course, there's no such guarantee. And the result is that Barclays is now trying to move 190 billion euros from the UK to Ireland. The High Court approved that after Barclays insisted it simply could not wait any longer. Now, I spoke to their chairman, John McFarlane, earlier this afternoon, and he said they had to be prepared because there still isn't any clarity. He told me they have to be conservative and plan for an exit in March.
So is this just an accounting exercise? Or
well, they haven't moved the money quite yet. This is just the permission so far, but it still represents a huge outflow, and Barclays isn't the only player here. It's estimated that financial institutions have shifted £800 billion of assets ahead of Brexit. Now, when it comes to Barclays, most of what's going is derivatives, and this activity represents huge amounts of profits, and profits mean huge amounts of tax revenues. And tonight, Krish, it's unclear whether the move will threaten important tax revenues here in the UK. Barclays are very keen to say that they will remain the UK's top 3 taxpayer, but you know, if money moves, then tax might move as well. Just finally, RBS will have its own court ruling about transferring money out on the 22nd of February.
Thanks, Helia. Now, we are as ready as we can be. That's the message from the new boss of the Port of Dover. But less than a month into the job, Doug Bannister has told this programme the government hasn't yet made any practical preparation for the thousands of additional checks which will be required if the UK leaves without a deal. Our business editor, Siobhan Kennedy, reports from Dover.
A bird's eye view of the free flow of freight, all 10,000 trucks, a day of it.
So, Siobhan, if you really want to see the most intense operation on earth for the management of freight activity, you got to come down to Dover.
Fresh American eyes on Britain's biggest port. The new chief executive, Doug Bannister, may be given to hyperbole, but in Dover's case, he's probably right. Nearly a fifth of the UK's trade in goods enters Britain through this port without so much as a lowered barrier or a raised clipboard. But now the man who came here from the port of Jersey is about to navigate Britain through uncharted waters as we prepare to leave the EU.
So far, while we know the guys and gals across government are working really, really hard on putting programs in place and getting understanding, and not just in the United Kingdom, but also in the European Union as well, about how this is all work, we still don't have firm direction on really what is going to be required.
This is the control centre, the heart of Dover. From up here you can see 2 ships are unloading 250 trucks, but the port here can cope with double that in a single hour. And it's a seamless flow because their exit point through customs is that little grey box down there. And as you can see, under current rules, all these trucks are simply waved through.
Of course, that won't be the case if we leave the EU with no deal and all these trucks suddenly need to be checked. But with no extra space or facilities on site, Mr Bannister's just praying the government understands the risk despite the lack of reassurance.
Is there anything actually physically happening on site here for additional checks?
So what we have received is we've received more what they are attempting to do. We haven't got any physical comfort. We haven't seen increased manpower. We haven't seen any new systems or processes. For us, the most important thing is what are the physical checks on the dock. That will, if those are minimal, then we can maintain operations. If a hard border therefore means that we have to have physical checks on the docks within our estate, then that is going to create a lot of problems for us.
But has the government told you that that is not going to be the case?
No.
Up the road, John James runs a freight firm that has its heart in Europe and is also Dover's biggest customs clearance agent. He's much more cautious and thinks gridlock is inevitable. We've just been with the new boss of the Port of Dover, who says, without being complacent, that he's done all he can to be prepared. And come what may, Dover will operate on the 29th and 30th of March.
Well, we think it's completely opposite of that. The delays will occur simply because the customs clearance facilities are not in place to clear the cargo after the 29th of March.
Can you cope? Can Dover cope?
Dover won't be able to cope. We won't be able to cope. As I said, it will be an impossible situation.
As for the notion that technology could potentially replace form filling and physical checks, don't bank on that either, says Dover.
It seemed to me to be a very huge task to get it all in, tested and operational before the 29th of March.
I mean, not to put too fine a point on it, it can't happen. Surely, a man of your experience with ports.
It comes down to how they want to treat the border.
And you don't know how they want to treat the border?
We don't.
The government says, and last night even voted, to avoid a no deal and the disruption it would bring to places like Dover. But keeping a lookout is part of the job here. While the boss says he can control processes in his command, it's the politics over the horizon that could make his first few months very difficult indeed.